What's up, everybody? It's Takes from Matt here with another video, and in this video, of course, going to be covering the NFL draft that just happened last night. Now, I will say that for the most part, there wasn't too many surprises. There was a couple surprises in there, but for the most part, there wasn't a lot of trades, and you pretty much saw how things would go, except for a couple picks here and there. So, anyways, let's get to actually analyzing the draft. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on some of the picks, and let's get to it. First pick, of course, you had Joe Burrow going to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a really good pick, of course, for the Bengals. We've known this pick for quite a while, ever since probably the national championship game. And it just makes sense for the Bengals to go out there and get the best quarterback prospect in a while. Some people say best quarterback prospect is Andrew Luck. This could be true. I mean, you saw what Joe Burrow did last year. He just tore it up, set records, and just set the college football world ablaze. And so the Bengals take the number one quarterback prospect here in Joe Burrow, who could be their guy for quite a long time. You just got to hope that they supplement him with the right weapons. And I mean, he already has AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon there. Just got to fortify that offensive line. Maybe get him another wide receiver. I mean, John Ross is still there too, but they're definitely going to have to figure out the AJ Green situation and the Joe Mixon contract situation. But that's pretty much where they stand there. Really good pick, of course. If I gave it a grade letter, it'd have to be an A plus. Next, you get the Washington Redskins taking Chase Young, who a lot of people said is the best draft prospect in there. This guy's a stud. This guy's a beast. There's nothing else really to say it to it. He's just an athletic freak. Got to give it an A plus here. Chase Young is going to be a really good pick for that defense when you put him across from Montez Sweat. I'm sure Ryan Kerrigan will be on his way out, but Ron Rivera is very happy with his pick. The Detroit Lions take Jeff Okudah. I'm just going to give it this like a B. Taking a corner kind of this high kind of sucks, but I mean, it's definitely a position of need. I don't know if the Lions really went anywhere. They just lost. They traded away Darius Slay, so I don't really see this as too much of a forward movement for them. But it's definitely a position of need, and they definitely had to go out and get it. And I mean, they did pick up Desmond Trufant, so pairing him with Desmond Trufant could be good, but we'll just see how that goes for them. I unfortunately think Matt Patricia is going to get fired this offseason because I don't see the Lions doing very much. Just being honest. The New York Giants took Andrew Thomas, one of the best offensive tackles in the draft. I had it as Jedrick Wills or Andrew Thomas, one of the two. But this was definitely a really good pick for them. They needed that offensive tackle here to shore up that defensive line. I'll give it a B plus, A minus, somewhere around there. Definitely a good pick for them to help out Daniel Jones. The Miami Dolphins took Tua Tagovailoa. They didn't have to move up to number 3 to get him, so that's good for them. There was smoke quite a bit coming from them saying that they were going to take Herbert, and I had believed it. I really thought they were going to take Herbert, but they did make the same mistake that they did with Drew Brees and worrying about the injury concerns, and they took Tua. So we'll have to see how it plays out with the injury concerns. I don't really know what I'm going to grade this. I'll just say a B for now because we just don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know if Tua is going to even play this year. He might play later in the year, but I don't know if you'd risk it quite necessarily, especially with the way this season it should be going with the whole pandemic situation going on. But yeah. Next, you had the Chargers taking Justin Herbert. I don't know how I feel about Herbert. I don't know if he's going to be a guy there, but I mean, he has some weapons there for sure, and Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson, Hunter Henry. He has some weapons there that should supplement him. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, the Chargers definitely have good talent. A lot of people say that. They just have to actually translate it into results. I'll just say like a B for now. Out of the top 3 quarterbacks, I think Justin Herbert, talent wise, I don't see as much in him as I do Tua or Burrow. But yeah. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers taking Derek Brown. I'm surprised they didn't take Isaiah Simmons here. I mean, he was just right there staring them in the face, and they probably should have taken him. They need someone to come in after Luke Kuechly retired, but I mean, it is what it is. Derek Brown's a really good prospect. Should shore up that defensive tackle spot with K'Wan Short there. I'll give it a B plus. Arizona Cardinals took Isaiah Simmons. This is an A grade for me. They probably should have taken an offensive tackle, but I mean, how can you pass up on Isaiah Simmons, one of the best players in the draft class? And really, he's just so versatile. He's just a football player. He can play anywhere. Put him at linebacker, put him at slot corner, put him at safety. He can play all over the field. And he even said himself, you normally get 53 players on a roster. With me, you get 56 because this guy is just so versatile. And I really love that in a player, versatility. It's just so valuable to have. So them adding Isaiah Simmons to the defense should help a lot. They had a terrible time covering the tight end spot last season. This should definitely help them. And I mean, their defense just needed help in general. But they still do need to cover that offensive line position. Kyler Murray was sacked the most by any quarterback in the NFL, I believe, last season. So they need to figure that out. Maybe they can figure that out with their next pick. They don't have a second round pick because they traded it for DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know. Maybe they can find someone later in the draft. Maybe they can trade up. We'll see what happens. Jacksonville Jaguars took C.J. Henderson. I'm going to give this a B+. They definitely needed a cornerback help here because they lost A.J. Bouye. They lost Jalen Ramsey. I don't know what I'm thinking here, but they lost both those cornerbacks, and this is definitely a position of need for them. Their defense has lost so many players on the defensive side of things, and this should definitely help them out getting the second best corner on the board. Cleveland Browns took Jedrick Wills. I'm going to give this an A. They definitely needed a offensive tackle, and they pretty much got the second best one at 10. Just stayed put. Cardinals didn't take one, and they got a really good one here, and this should really help them out. One of their biggest weaknesses last year was that offensive line. Baker just couldn't get to his weapons quite clearly, so we'll see if this should help things, and this should be a very good testament to if Baker is there or not, because they signed Jack Conklin. They went out and drafted Jedrick Wills here at 10, so I don't really know if there's an excuse now. So we'll have to see how that offense pans out under the new head coach with this new offensive line retooled. Yeah. The Jets took Mekhi Becton. I would have taken Tristan Wirfs here, but I'm not going to give it a bad grade. I'm going to say a B+. He is a prospect. He's a mammoth of a man. This guy is huge. He runs a 5'1", and he's like 396, 6'7". It's just crazy. And that kind of athletic tackle can work out. I've seen it work out with the Saints with Teron Armstead. The main thing I'm just worried about is since he's just so big, if these defensive linemen can have like a low center of gravity, maybe they could get around him. But I will say it's like a B+ grade for me because definitely a position of need. I'm glad they didn't fall into the wide receiver pit because they could just take one in the second day. I mean, they have a pick here at 48. They should be able to get a quality wide receiver, which they definitely need a wide receiver, don't get me wrong. But protecting Sam Darnold is paramount. Next, the Las Vegas Raiders took Henry Ruggs. I'm surprised they didn't go CeeDee Lamb. I'm surprised they didn't go Jerry Jeudy, one of those two. I prefer those two to Henry Ruggs. But Henry Ruggs has just been climbing draft boards with his blazing speed, and I think he's more than just a deep threat. I think he could be a really good wide receiver. In terms of fantasy perspective, I think this guy is probably one of the top wide receivers just because of the opportunity he's going to have. I mean, who else at wide receiver could they have there? I mean, you do have Tyrell Williams. You do have the guy at Clemson. His name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, this should be very good for them. Henry Ruggs should be a good pick. I give it a B. Maybe a B- because I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, but we'll have to see how it pans out. Next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took Tristan Wirfs. I'm not going to be a fan of the Buccaneers, of course, because I'm a Saints fan, but this is a good pick for them. I'll say B+, A-, somewhere around there. A. Tristan Wirfs is a really good tackle. Yeah, I'll give it an A grade because this is definitely a position of need. They definitely need a tackle. They got Tristan Wirfs here, which should be a really good pick for them. They just had to stay put, and they got their guy here. And that should help them a lot. San Francisco 49ers took Javon Kinlaw here, defensive tackle. They traded this pick. Well, actually, the Buccaneers and 49ers traded picks, which the Buccaneers traded up one spot. So thinking about that, I'm going to give it just a B+ because they traded up one spot to get their guy when the 49ers definitely were not going to take a tackle. Maybe they had to trade up to prevent someone else from trading up to get him, but I don't know. But the 49ers at 14 took Javon Kinlaw. They traded that 13 pick they got that 13 pick from the Colts for DeForest Buckner. They didn't have to sign DeForest Buckner to a huge deal. They got Javon Kinlaw, the second best defensive tackle in the draft. So this is definitely a position of need for them. They didn't reach for a corner, which is good here, and they got a good guy here. I'm going to give it a B plus, A minus grade. Denver Broncos took Jerry Jeudy. I'm giving this an A. They stood put. They got Jerry Jeudy, who I think is probably the best wide receiver prospect in the draft. You could say him or CeeDee Lamb. It really just doesn't. It really just outweighs one way or the other. But this was a position of need for them. They said they wanted to go out and get a wide receiver opposite of Cortland Sutton. So now Drew Lock has lots of weapons there. You think about it. He has Noah Fant, the tight end. He has Jerry Jeudy. He has Cortland Sutton. They signed Melvin Gordon. They still have Phillip Lindsay. So they definitely have a good offensive core around their young quarterback, Drew Lock. Let's just see if that translates well for them. I know they were very happy Jerry Jeudy was here at 15. Next, we have A.J. Terrell to the Falcons. I'm going to give this probably a C. It's definitely a position of need, but I think it's a reach here. But they definitely had to go out and get a corner. So yeah, I don't feel like that's a very good pick for them. Honestly, I've heard bad things about A.J. Terrell, kind of, but he's definitely a Clemson product, and he could be good. We'll just see how it pans out for them. Dallas Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb. This was where I was surprised. I was surprised that they actually took CeeDee Lamb here, because I mean that offense is just going to be loaded now. You have Zeke, you have Gallup, you have Amari Cooper, you have CeeDee Lamb, of course, now. So they're just loaded at everywhere besides probably tight end, and Dak Prescott's definitely got to sign that deal now, because I mean look at the weapons they presented him with, and it should be very good. I mean, Mike McCarthy, he's going to have a really good system in place, I think. I think CeeDee Lamb could be good. The thing I'm worried about him with, fantasy perspective-wise, is the amount of volume he's going to get. I think this hurts him quite a bit, but we'll just have to see how that goes and see how the target share goes around with the wide receivers. But I think it doesn't bode well for him fantasy-wise. Maybe long-term he could be better once Michael Gallup probably leaves. I think he's on his third year going into this year. So I don't think they're going to re-sign Gallup, and they're just going to have CeeDee Lamb there be the number 2. So, yeah, I say it's a really good grade. I'll give it a A. They took the best player on the board, and it's not really a position of need, but sometimes you just got to take the best player available on your draft board, even if it's not a position of need, and that's a winning formula, honestly. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see how this will go. All right, next you have the Miami Dolphins taking Austin Jackson. I think this is a bit of a reach here, but it could be good depending on how he develops. I know some people said Josh Jones could have been the second tackle taken, but they take Austin Jackson here, definitely a position of need. They need to, I'm saying need so much in this, but it's definitely something paramount when we're talking about the process for these teams. But I'll give this one a B. Definitely a move that needed to happen. I just don't like the player here, honestly. So yeah. Next, the Las Vegas Raiders took Damon Arnette. I think this is a reach. But I mean, if they really like him, they probably couldn't have got him in the second round. I don't even think they have a second round pick. Yeah, they don't, because the Bears have their second round pick. So I'll give it a C plus, because I don't really know much about Damon Arnette. I just think it's a reach based on value. We'll see how that goes. I would have taken maybe Jeff Gladney or Christian Fulton myself. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out for them. But 2 Ohio State corners went in this draft in the top 20 picks, which is crazy. Jacksonville Jaguars took Clavon Chaisson. This guy is super young. I'm going to give this one a B+, not just because he's super young and everything, but definitely fits a position of need. They're going to be trading Yannick Ngakoue, but the way he's been handling this has just not been good. I don't think he's going to be able to get traded, because who's going to want to take that? And I mean, they might have to cut him, but either way, you needed to draft a replacement for him. and this should be a good pick. I like Claypool Chason. Philadelphia Eagles, they took Jalen Reagor. I was surprised they didn't take Justin Jefferson here. I mean, everyone pretty much had Justin Jefferson mocked to the Eagles, and that didn't happen here. They took Jalen Reagor. I would have rather took Justin Jefferson myself. I like Justin Jefferson more. I'm gonna still give it a B grade. Jalen Reagor could be good in fantasy aspects because I mean, who do you have there at wide receiver? You got Alshon Jeffrey, who gets hurt on a very consistent basis. You have Deshaun Jackson, who's very old. Nelson Aguilar left, and the other people you have vying for target share is Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders here and there maybe. But yeah, I think this is a good fantasy perspective pick for them. But Jalen Reagor, they definitely needed a wide receiver. Minnesota Vikings, they took Justin Jefferson out of LSU, who I love. This guy is a fantastic slot receiver. I don't know how they're going to do with Thielen and Justin Jefferson. They're going to have to figure that out. Maybe move Thielen to the outside, Justin Jefferson maybe to the outside. But I think Justin Jefferson best fits as a slot guy. So they should probably keep him in the slot and move Thielen outside. I don't know how that'll work, but we'll have to see how that goes in. I'll give it a B just because I'm quite unsure about it. But they definitely needed to draft a wide receiver. This was the pick they got for Stephon Diggs. So that was definitely a need there. So, yeah. The Chargers traded up in front of my New Orleans Saints because they wanted this guy. They got Kenneth Murray, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. I love Kenneth Murray. I love him and Patrick Queen, both the linebackers. They're really good linebackers. And, they traded with New England. They didn't have to give up a first-round pick. They gave up their second and their third. And New England was just getting draft picks. So I'm very interested to see how the Patriots navigate the rest of this draft. As far as grade wide, I'll give it a B plus. If I was the Chargers, I probably would have went offensive line here, but yeah, I mean they moved in front of the Saints, took Kenneth Murray. I heard people saying that according to teams that Kenneth Murray was like their favorite interview ever because this guy is just a delight. So yeah, should be a good locker room guy. Should bolster that defense even more. I'm gonna give it an A minus actually. But yeah, good pick. Next, my New Orleans Saints. They took Cesar Ruiz. I was very surprised we didn't take Patrick Queen. Cesar Ruiz is a center. We drafted McCoy last year, who's a center in the second round. We traded up for him. I imagine what's going to happen here is McCoy or Ruiz is going to get kicked out to right guard. We're going to replace Larry Warford. If you saw the Vikings game last year, they attacked our interior offensive line. They moved their defensive ends to the interior, and that just wrecked our offensive line. And I mean, we already re-signed Andrews Pete, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but I mean, he has his days where he has good games. But for the most part, a lot of people do hate on him, and he has bad games. Like, when he has bad games, they're bad. And Larry Warford, he's been kind of regressing. He was a really solid offensive guard that we signed from the Lions. And we'll have to see what happens here. I don't know if we're going to keep Larry Warford this season. I don't know what's going to happen. There's definitely going to be competition there. I'm very interested to see who's going to get there. I'm just going to give it a B grade. It's a smart grade for the long term for this offensive line. Now we've literally drafted everyone on this offensive line. Once Warford is not here, I mean, he has 1 year left, so he'll probably be gone soon anyways. The 49ers, they had traded down. No, they traded up. I'm sorry. They traded up to go ahead and get Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State. I don't really know. Well, they probably thought the Packers were going to draft a wide receiver, so they had to get in front of the Packers if this is the guy they wanted. I'll give it a B plus because this is definitely a position they needed to target. Yeah, I'm gonna just give it a B plus. I don't know too much about Brandon Ayuk. I know he's a really solid receiver. I haven't watched too much on him, but definitely a position I need for the 49ers. That's why I'm gonna give it like a B grade. They had to move up for him, which kind of sucks, but I don't think they gave up too much. So yeah. Next, the Packers took Jordan Love. I hate this pick. I don't understand why they did it. I know Aaron Rodgers is like a year older than Brett Favre was when they took Aaron Rodgers, so this is definitely a move for the future. But I'm going to give this a C minus maybe even, because you should have went and got something to supplement Aaron Rodgers. You definitely needed a wide receiver here. There's quite a few still on the board you could have taken. I just don't like this pick, man. I really don't. Um, because this is just going to anger Aaron Rodgers, and it could anger him for the better. He could be like, okay, now I got to just show this guy that there's no way he's taking my job, because in an interview earlier this year, he said, doesn't matter who you're taking, there's no way they're beating me out. He said that. So, and you know the kind of attitude that Aaron Rodgers carries with him, and I mean, rightfully so. He's one of the best quarterbacks ever. So, yeah, this is going to anger him. I don't know what they're thinking here. Aaron Rodgers, he's 36, and I mean, the way some quarterbacks are playing into their later years, you just don't know. So, yeah. The Seattle Seahawks, they took Jordan Brooks, the linebacker out of Texas Tech. I think this is a reach here. They could have taken Patrick Queen. I'm just going to give this a B minus, because a B minus to a C plus. I'm not very high on this pick. The Seahawks are very unconventional with their draft picks. I don't know if this is going to pan out. They already got Bobby Wagner and KJ right there. I don't know what they're doing here unless they're going to transfer their scheme into a 3-4. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about that. The Baltimore Ravens took Patrick Queen, the linebacker out of LSU. This is going to be getting an A for me. Patrick Queen should be a really solid linebacker. He just got better as the season went on last year. Really good in coverage. And Baltimore Ravens just pick up a really good linebacker to replace C.J. Mosley from them losing him last year. Something like that, because he wasn't with them this season. Tennessee Titans took Isaiah Wilson, the tackle out of Georgia. This is definitely a position of need. I'm just going to give this a B, though, because a little bit of a reach, but definitely a position they needed to tackle. I do think they could have taken an edge rusher. But yeah, they lost Jack Conklin to free agency, so they had to make this move. Miami Dolphins took Noah, a cornerback out of Auburn, Igbenebe. I don't know. I just absolutely butchered his name there. He wasn't much on my radar. I don't think it's really a position of need for the Dolphins myself. I know they lost. They could have drafted Xavier McKinney here to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick. They already gave Byron Jones a butt ton of money in free agency. They already get to have Xavier Howard. So yeah, I'm not very big on this one. I'm gonna give it a C grade, honestly. Minnesota Vikings took Jeff Gladney. They traded down, still got a player they probably would have taken where they drafted. So just for that, it's got to get a B plus. The Vikings had a really good draft, if you ask me. They got Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney, and they acquired some picks. Really good moves by the Vikings. B plus overall, like an A grade for them for the day. And then the Kansas City Chiefs took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A lot of people were like, why didn't they take DeAndre Swift? But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, really solid for the LSU Tigers last season. This guy, he's really good with the catch. He's really good. He's a guy I really wanted the Saints to look at if we were going to replace Alvin Kamara. But yeah, I'll give them a B plus for this one. Running back's definitely not a position you probably need to target in the first round anymore. But Kansas City Chiefs, they have a really good roster all around, and running back was definitely something they needed. So, yeah, that's the overall thoughts that I thought of the NFL draft. If you have any differing opinions, I would like to hear them in the comment section down below. And I'm ready to figure out what Night 2 is going to have in store. Anyways, hope you guys all have a good day. Peace.